Hi, everybody. Today's Wednesday, November 12th, 2025, and our friend, our brother, Laith Marouf, is here with us. Welcome back, Laith.
Great to be with you, Nima.
Please subscribe and hit like button, and you can see the address just right below the name of Laith. You see the Free Palestine video. You can go there and support what Laith is trying to do. He's trying to provide us with the reports that no one else is capable of doing, because we've seen nobody doing what Lace is doing right now in the southern part of Lebanon and reporting on what's going on basically in that area, which is one of the major, conflicts in the Middle East on the southern part of Lebanon. Laith, looking at what has happened in the United States, Al Jilani goes to Washington and he's meeting with Donald Trump, and he said that he's in direct talks with Israelis as well. What's your understanding on what's going on? The United States was supposed to withdraw from Syria. Right now, it seems that they're sending more soldiers to Syria. What is
Yeah,
happening?
yeah. I mean, like, finally, everything is out in the open. And, Al Julani and his foreign affairs minister, who, for anyone that takes a look clearly at his picture, can see that this is actually al Baghdadi, the former head of ISIS, shaved and with just a little bit of plastic surgery tucking on his cheeks. Now we know that Osama bin Laden never died. They told us that they threw him in the ocean, but most probably he's walking in California, where he filmed most of those videos that were supposed to be from Tora Bora. It's now clear that all the Wahhabi death squads around the world, Al Qaeda, ISIS, HTS, Al Shabaab in Somalia, or the Boko Haram in Nigeria that now are being used to justify an invasion of Nigeria. All of these are, created by the Saudi intelligence and handled by the Israeli and CIA intelligence. To see this man playing basketball, clearly he was playing basketball with his handlers in the beginning of his career. He's very comfortable with all those American soldiers and American intelligence officials. The White House, put the red carpet for this genocider, this head chopper, because he's their man. And, he didn't only meet with American officials, he met with Zionist officials, AIPAC, and other Zionist organizations that are, as we see now, filming themselves walking in the streets of Damascus, entering the old Jewish quarter of Damascus, entering the temples that were preserved by the Syrian government for decades and desecrating them. What can we say about this man more than that? He's definitely not going to last, because his job is to just create enough schisms in Syria that the country cannot be glued back together. And he will continue massacring minorities and chopping heads until his job is done.
It seems to me that it's a desperate move on the part of the Turkish government, and they try to. Who's behind Al Jolani? And what do you think that they would get what they want to get from Israel, which would be not attacking Syria, not, just giving up on the territories that they have occupied in the southern, not Golan Heights, beyond Golan Heights, they have occupied the southern part of Syria. I don't see that happening with the new attitude. And what is behind this sort of behavior on the part of the Turkish government? And because I don't see Al Jolani being separated from the policies in Istanbul, in Ankara.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, we see videos every day of Israeli soldiers entering Syrian villages and roaming around with the HTS militiamen just standing there and watching. So there will never be a clash between al-Jolani and the Israelis. They work on the same team. Turkey works on the same team. Turkey is getting everything that it wants in Syria. All the industries of Syria that were the main competitor for Turkish products in the whole north of Africa and West Asia are destroyed. And the Turkish industries have no competitor in the region anymore. The oil, olive oil of Syria in Aleppo and Idlib and the coast is all looted. We watched over the olive oil harvesting season. These militias walk in, beat up the people of the land, just like the settlers in the West Bank, and steal their oil and olive harvest and send it to Turkey. And now it's exported as if it's Turkish product. So Turkey is getting everything it wants. It's controlling the water of the Euphrates and Tigris with no, opposition from a Syrian government. They're starving actually right now. The Euphrates and Tigris. Iraq is being hit really hard because of this, and Syria was the one that used to fight for the rights of the river, continuing with all the looting of the water by Turkey. I don't see anything else that Turkey wants. It has seen north of Syria become now a colony of Kurds, and so it's getting rid of all of its own Kurds. All of these Kurds are moving out of Turkey and occupying, colonizing the northeast of Syria, so it's perfect for him. What else does Turkey need from al-Jolani? And the Russians are happy. They're getting all the looted gas. All the gas of Syria is under control of Russia, and who knows where the money is going. The oil is going to the Americans. The Israelis are getting all the water of the Golan Heights, the Yarmouk River, the Jordan River, all of it. So there's nothing left in Syria to divvy up. This man, al-Jolani, is not ruling anything except the ghettos in the cities where there's no industry and there's no agriculture and there's no natural resources.
Laith, did you watch the video in which Robert Ford, the U.S. diplomat, is talking about how they have prepared al-Jolani, rebranded him to be the leader, to be the president of Syria? Here is what he said. Laith.
Starting in 2023, a British non-government organization which specializes in conflict resolution invited me to help them bring this guy out of the terrorist world and into regular politics. And at first, I have to tell you, I was very leery of going. I sort of had images of me in an orange jumpsuit with a knife to my throat. But after talking to several people who had gone in, and one of whom had met him, I decided to take the chance. And so the first time I met him, this guy's name, his nom de guerre was Abdulkader Jolani, but his actual name is Ahmed Shara, which he only revealed to the world after he captured.
Yeah, you get the sense. And Laith, what is the role of the British government in the region, and how deep is that? And how connected are they with the CIA, if that's the case? Because it seems to me, when it comes to the region, you look at the way that the British government tried to get closer to Turkey, and the way they are capable of manipulating, as this diplomat said, he was called by MI6, not CIA. What is their role? What do they want from the region?
Yeah, the British intelligence role in the region goes back to the 1800s and even before World War I. the British intelligence office in India used to control much of the activities in what is now called West Asia. They, harbored and financed the royal families that are there now in the area, and they molded them, and of course they, you know, gave fire to the Wahhabi cult. They used the Wahhabi cult as far as back as the late 1700s to attack Najaf and Karbala and Mecca and Medina, and again in the 1800s, and again in World War I. So where, the role of the British intelligence is very deep here, even though that the Americans have kind of inherited the whole British Empire at the end of World War II, with them occupying London, and the British intelligence and its history with the ruling families in the Arabic world is so deep that you cannot replace it. So we know, of course, of the Five Eyes and how all the Anglo intelligence services are, subservient to the CIA. And this continues. In places where the Americans and the British cannot do something, the Canadians and the Australians do something else. A lot of times in places where there's too much eyes on the British intelligence or Americans, the Canadians with their soft face can gather information that others can't. So there's always a role for, even the Canadian intelligence in Syria had a role to play. Much of the Muslim Brotherhood leadership that was kind of cultured outside Syria, where mainly in the United Kingdom and Canada. So for the Turks, Turkey right now, it seems have forgotten the history of how the British intelligence were behind the Arab revolt, the Arabic revolt led by the Hashemites, that no other Arabic movement ever wanted to support. And they found the Hashemites and the Saud family to support them. But now we see, of course, over the last 15 years at least, the Turkish intelligence being crucial in the destruction of Syria, and its relationship with the British intelligence, creating the white helmets and other efforts like that, were important and crucial to the battle, propaganda and intelligence-wise.
Yeah. We had the UK court blocking Palestinian NGOs' appeal over F-35 parts export to Israel. They're sending, these parts from F-35 to Israel. What's so amazing, Laith, to me, that many people who are in the West, who are arguing that these Muslims are, getting all over Europe, they're capturing all the power in the United Kingdom. But you see, after the outcome is not that. It's not the case. They're still supporting Israel, sending aid to Israel, even sending weapons to Israel. So what is the role of the Muslim community in the United Kingdom when you look at it?
There's multiple generations of Muslim immigrants to the UK. Of course, the oldest one is from South Asia, where the British occupied the Indian subcontinent, and they were brought either to work in the UK and or moved with the different wars and so forth throughout the system of UK governance until they got there, the imperial governance structures. Some of those, of course, are working class, but there is the whole collaborationist class that was in South Asia, and were also indentured in Africa, where this South Asian upper class, middle class, where the kind of in between the British white rulers and the black Africans. So a lot of these names that we're seeing right now leading the Conservative Party or in the Labour Party or others are descendants of these collaborators. So we even see some of them being very anti-immigration and anti-Muslim and pro-Zionist. So you have that part. Then you have a different wave of immigrants from the Muslim world that came after World War II, and a third wave that came after the end of the Soviet Union and the beginning of the wars on terror. So these are three distinct waves, and their integration varies and their access to power varies. The only ones that have access to power are the ones that come from that upper class that collaborated with the imperialists long time ago and still are collaborating. The vast majority of Muslims in the United Kingdom are working class, and they just want to be left alone. And they understand that no matter what they try, even in a voting way, they are not going to get any representation. So that is the vast majority of the Muslims in the UK. And they're being used as a punching bag by the Zionists. Look, part of the war on terror, targets, objectives, was not only the destruction of all these countries and looting their resources, but part of it was also to stop the integration of Muslims in Western countries. By the year 2000, the Muslim populations were larger, much larger than the Jewish populations in almost all the Western countries, save for the United States. And the normal path of history would mean these communities would be integrated, they will intermarry, they'll be comedians, they'll be musicians, they'll be whatever, cultural producers, and Muslims, like the other parts of the immigrants into those societies, will be accepted as equal. That was a dangerous reality for the Zionists. They couldn't stand that the Muslim communities in these countries can be integrated, because that will mean the end of support for Zionism within the state. So there had to be a schism made. And the Zionists started this fire of anti-immigration, anti-Muslim hate in the West. Of course, the West is racist in general, but to maximize it, to target the vast majority of hate towards the Muslim people, September 11 and the war on terror was used for that. And we saw over the last 2 years a new wave of that, even because while the Zionists want to destroy every Arabic country that is sovereign, every Muslim country that is sovereign and able to provide for its people, which leads to mass migration from those countries to Western societies that don't have active wars. You see, the two targets of the Zionists clash together. They want to stop the integration or increase of Muslim peoples in the West, while they want to destroy the Muslim countries. Those two things don't come together, and therefore we see how the Zionists are unable to handle the situation. It's coming out of their control, both in the battles on the ground and the battles inside Western societies.
There are some footages, Laith, coming out. It seems that 2 days ago they came out, and it shows that the Israelis are deploying tanks to the border with Lebanon. And how do you see the situation with Lebanon? Or is that related to some sort of operation on the ground? What is that? Or it's a normal behavior, or they're preparing for something to come?
Over the last 2 months, the Zionists and the West behind them attempted to find ways to disarm Hezbollah using internal mechanisms, whether it's trying to entice the fascist Christian supremacists to do something, and or pressuring the military to have a confrontation with its own population, and all of those efforts failed. So Hezbollah just sat back and watched the West attempted all these possibilities and they all failed. So now Hezbollah knows that there is no internal pressure on it, no competitor. The military will not face Hezbollah or kill its own citizens. The president wants the military to defend the country and its borders. Therefore, the whole population right now is lined up behind Hezbollah and the resistance, and it has the legitimacy of the military and the government. And the Zionists find themselves in a way where if they want to disarm Hezbollah, they have no choice but to do it themselves. While those movements of tanks may look like they will be invading South Lebanon, I doubt yet. I think it's just part of the attempted pressures on Hezbollah and the Lebanese state. If we look at the historical attempted invasions by the Zionists into South Lebanon since Hezbollah came to effect in 2006, they were unable to get through a few kilometers before their whole invading force was destroyed. Similarly, between 2023 and the ceasefire at the end of 2024, the Israeli military was unable to occupy any village and barely moved in, and again lost tens of tanks and armored vehicles. So an invasion from the south at this moment, where the Zionists destroyed all the frontline villages in South Lebanon, is a suicide mission, because all Hezbollah has to do right now is carpet bomb those already destroyed villages as the Israelis are advancing, and it will be over for the Israelis. So we look at the map, given that the Israelis are occupying half of the border of Lebanon with Syria, up to almost the main highway between Damascus and Beirut. The only possible different scenario for a land invasion is for the Israelis to descend from the foothills of the Golan Heights and Mount Hermon directly into the Bekaa Valley, skipping all of the south of Lebanon. And again, this is a very, very hard maneuver to do. The Israelis attempted this also in 1982, and they were faced with a huge battle. It's still considered the largest tank battle in history since World War II. And they lost tens of tanks. A whole army of tanks basically was destroyed in this battle, and they were repelled. I think Hezbollah will be able to repel them if they try to do that again. So the only logical thing that I can see in my head is that there may be a large aerial bombardment campaign by the Zionists, and this is not going to change anything in terms of the balance of power in the country here.
Laith, we've seen some sort of reports that shows that Hezbollah has received the weapons that they needed to get prepared for any sort of attack from Israelis. And how prepared is today Hezbollah militarily in terms of the weapons, missiles, all the means that they need to go against Israel if they attack to defend themselves against Israel?
Yeah, I think I've been saying since the fall of Syria's government that now Hezbollah is even more armed than it was before. And this is for multiple reasons. One, when the Syrian government collapsed, all the caches of weapons of the Syrian military around the country were a free-for-all. Not only did the Israelis attack those caches, but every local villager stole anything they can get their hands on. Okay, and then they were out in the black market everywhere in Syria, especially on the border villages with Lebanon, where you could cross easily and buy by the kilo whatever weapons you wanted. You didn't even need to specify what weapons; they just pile it all up for you. You can buy from a small pistol to a tank, okay, and everything in between. So that's one thing. Hezbollah and the local population of Lebanon just bought everything they can at that point from the black market that was formed after the fall of the Syrian government. The other thing is that Hezbollah had some factories, weapons factories inside Syria. And although it abandoned them originally, through the oil trade that is happening, the black market oil trade that's happening between Syria and Lebanon right now, there's no imports of oil or gas to Syria, and all the gas and oil is being looted by the Russians and the Americans. And therefore, the only way that the country is getting gas and or oil products is through the black market smuggling on the border with Lebanon, which meant that even HTS itself, to have its tanks and trucks and APCs moving, they needed the oil that is being smuggled from Lebanon. Okay, so in return for all the smuggled oil and gas products, even HTS let Hezbollah get back all its factories from inside Syria. So there is weapons factories. So Hezbollah has not only rearmed, it has built factories for all its drones and guided missiles, rebuilt them, the ones that were in Syria, inside Lebanon, and it's building all its needs, and anything specific that it needs smuggled will get here very easily, especially with the rule of HTS, because it's a free-for-all, gangsters everywhere, and you can bribe anyone and everybody.
The United States is going to occupy an air base close to Damascus. And why did they decide to go in that specific area? And what is the strategic meaning of this sort of movement? Is that about the presence of Russia in Syria? Is that about the way that they want to support Israel? Or at the same time supporting Israel, they want to support Israel in their attack on Iran?
I think the top priority for them would be to build air defenses there to protect the Israelis from any future war with Iran. Many of the drones and guided missiles were going through that route from over Damascus to over the Golan Heights and then down to the south. That's one path that these missiles and drones were taking. And it's harder for the Israeli air defenses and to monitor the coming of missiles and drones from that location because of the Golan Heights. But now, also the Israelis have captured Mount Hermon and are building their own radars and stuff on top of it. So I think it's more about the air defenses being just before Damascus, to be able to shoot down anything that's coming to the Israelis. The other thing is that in the situation where Al-Julani's government collapses, which is one of the highest probabilities, the government is unable to provide any services, and it doesn't really control the country, and it's a free-for-all. Anyone and everyone is forming militias. At any minute, Al-Julani's government is going to collapse. It's to have the ability to occupy a crucial part of the country that could divide the south and the east from the capital in the case where Al-Julani ceases to exist or his government ceases to exist.
Yeah, you've mentioned the government in Syria is about to collapse, but that would create such a condition for the United States to manage the government, to make them obeying the United States policies in the region. I don't know how, Laith, looking at Al-Julani, and he was talking about with the Washington Post, if I'm not mistaken, he said that before reaching any sort of agreement, Israel has to withdraw from the southern part of Syria. But how capable is he? What leverage do they have to do that? And is there anybody listening to these people? or it's just some pure fantasy from the Turkish government? They feel that they can achieve that by, you know, this sort of dance on the part of Giuliani for Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's just he you know, they're trying to make him look like he's still not the I don't want to use a bad word, the prostitute of the Zionists, right? They're trying to make him look like he will fight them somehow. And of course, in his statement, he didn't mention the Golan Heights. He was talking about only territories the Zionists occupied since December 8th. So it's I think this is the more crucial part of what he said and why he said it. He was being asked by the Zionists to indicate that he doesn't care about the Golan Heights. Okay. And that's what he delivered. This is part of the propaganda, how it's shaped and formed. These words didn't come out of his mouth. These words were handed to him by his handler to say as an answer to that question. Okay, this is all managed appearance. I mean, we watch those videos. Everybody can watch them of Israeli soldiers roaming in villages in the south of Syria, while the HTS soldiers are just standing there and watching them, you know, rummage through people's homes and shoot up in the air and, you know, terrorize the locals. So there will be no confrontation. You know, he is a CIA construct, Al-Jolani. So it's not like he really cares about governing a country or being a president or, you know, the well-being of this country. When his master tells him, now you're going to step down, he will step down and he will move, and the next puppet will come in if there is no real revolt. But the country is boiling. You know, every day, tens of women, young women, are being kidnapped, coming back from university, coming back from their work, going to their work, going to school. The population, specifically the Sunni population in the major cities right now, are boiling. Okay, and the Sunni population in the major cities like Damascus and Aleppo are the upper and middle class, business class of the country. And if the business class in the country is not happy, because, you know, the only thing that usually keeps people quiet when there's a dictatorship is that business is working. Okay, if business is working, the middle class and upper class is not, you know, going against you. But if you can't even provide this parasitic class with business, they will also flip on you and spend their business trying to take you down. So this is where we're at. All the minorities are against this government, and now the upper and middle class of the Sunnis are also getting fed up because there's no normalcy. He can't even provide the services that the Assad government provided during the blockade and war.
Laith, how does people see, how do people in Lebanon see Iran and the support that, because you've mentioned before that the government in Lebanon somehow blocking the aid coming to the southern part of Lebanon to rebuild what has been destroyed during the Israeli attacks, and they're destroying as we talk in the southern part of Lebanon. They have attacked, bombed. And how do they see the way that Iran is behaving? Or is Iran trying to help the people in the southern part of Lebanon?
Yeah, I think money is flowing, whether the Lebanese government or the central bank try to block it or not. You know, we have now, over the last few weeks, a lot of attention being made by the Zionists and the imperialists to Al-Qard al-Hassan, which means the blessed loan, which is a co-op bank that Hezbollah runs, where people can take loans at zero interest to build businesses, build homes, cover their marriage costs or their schooling costs. You can put your, you know, gold that you have at home, your jewelry in this, you know, bank, and it will give you money where you can go and buy more jewelry. You know, it's one of the best co-op banks in the country, and many of the working class, not the Shias, but all the other sects are putting their money there. I think at least half of the customers of Al-Qard al-Hassan are non-Shia because of that. There's no other bank that services the working class that need these loans. So they're attempting to ban it. We saw the Israelis attack multiple branches of Al-Qard al-Hassan during the war, and still Al-Qard al-Hassan paid up to all its depositors. Every customer got their money, even with all those attacks on the branches. So now there's a possibility of the central bank try to ban Al-Qard al-Hassan, which will harm, of course, all the working class here in Lebanon. And this is part of the strategy that the Zionists and the Americans behind them are trying to achieve here. The goals, one of the tactical goals, is to impoverish the Lebanese people and those who support the resistance enough for that they can't think of resisting when they're looking for food to not starve and to be able to send their children to schools. So Iran is still attempting to bring in money to the country. Hezbollah is achieving that. It's all happening. But this is separate than the money of the people. There is now a whole program that Hezbollah is going to try to help people rebuild, give money for rebuilding. But the Israelis keep on attacking their rebuilding efforts in the south. So there's, Hezbollah is holding still until the situation is safe enough to rebuild. And that will require either the Israelis respecting the ceasefire, which they will never do, or a return to a full war, where the Israelis get a beating and they stop attacking the south.
And if they decide someday they decide to rebuild the southern part of Lebanon, is the government in Lebanon going to carry the burden a little bit, or they're just simply they don't want to be part of the reconstruction in the southern part of Lebanon? What is the tone on the part of the government?
In 2006, the government of Lebanon spent $0 on the reconstruction. And Hezbollah paid up, I think it's like $5 or $6 billion in money for those to rebuild people's homes. They rebuilt all the infrastructure that was destroyed, all at their own cost. And I don't expect the Lebanese government to be better this time. There's even more destruction this time than in 2006. But Hezbollah is demanding that the government do its part. But there is no real government in Lebanon. It doesn't provide the normal services, whether it's schooling or health or electricity. Traffic lights don't work. So I don't expect them to foot the bill anytime soon. Maybe if Lebanon is a true sovereign country, the government will help, but at this moment I don't see any possibility of the government giving any money into reconstruction.
I think the same goes to Gaza and the situation in Gaza. Do you think that is there any sort of plan, any sort of sign that there is a plan of reconstruction of Gaza? What do we know about that? The West Bank is the same, Gaza is the same. What do we know about that?
Yeah, the Qataris, the Emiratis, the Saudis, they all said they'll put money if and when. That time hasn't come. The war is still going. I doubt if actually Hamas completely wins this war and the Israelis retreat, that the Saudis would want to spend their money rebuilding Gaza. The Emiratis and the Saudis specifically will only put money to rebuild Gaza if Israel rules it. They're 100% pro-Zionist, and they don't want the resistance to look like it got anything for the people of Palestine. The West Bank, nobody's even looking at the West Bank, actually. There's like close to 300,000 Palestinians that are homeless right now with all the destruction of the main refugee camps around the cities in the West Bank and the total depopulation of multiple villages in the Jordan Valley and the hills of Hebron. And so, part of what we saw in terms of mass destruction in Syria, Lebanon, and Palestine, people need to understand this that are not from the region. Here, there was barely anyone who's homeless, okay? Because people build multi-generational homes. The family just grows the house on the land, adds another part for the first son and his wife and children and so on, and adds another and other. There was basically multi-generational ownership of homes. 90-somewhat% of people own their own home. There was very little people that actually rent homes. And that the West wanted to wipe that multi-generational wealth that is being invested in homes and lands, wipe it off the map completely. And that's what they did. Mass destruction of Syria made millions of people homeless. These people have never been homeless in generations. Similarly, that's happened now in Palestine and in Lebanon. And to build a home that can house an extended family is a lot of investment. It's going to take another generation for people to at least get to that comfort. And the West doesn't want you to even have that stopping of war to be able to even rebuild, because they want us to be homeless. They want us to be easy to move around and have to find sources of income working for the empire and or leave our land completely and go to the West. That is the objective of this mass destruction, is to wipe out this generational wealth that existed in the region.
I don't know if you saw the report on BBC. According to a satellite imagery analysis that shows that the IDF has destroyed over 1,500 buildings in Gaza since the start of the ceasefire. That shows how, if they start rebuilding, reconstructing, it doesn't mean anything, because Israel can attack and destroy everything. And unless they find something permanent, and it doesn't seem that the ceasefire going to work. I don't know how long the United States is going to keep up with this, the so-called Trump ceasefire. But what is your understanding of the ceasefire, the current state of the ceasefire in Gaza, Laith, before wrapping up this session?
Yeah, it's definitely temporary. This war has been going on for over a century, and it's going to continue going on until either the Zionist colony ceases to exist or the Arabic people as a whole become like the quote-unquote Red Indians and were put into reserves. And as we see, the indigenous people of the United States and Canada are still resisting till today, 400 years later, carrying arms, even some of them, and confronting the Canadian military. So this war will continue because it is a colonial project that doesn't have any legitimacy to exist. And the indigenous people know it doesn't have, and have not accepted, and will never accept, like any other human being, any other culture will never accept it. So I think we will be seeing a return to full war. Who knows when? The normalcy of this daily deaths and attacks by the Zionists cannot last long. Just like the normalcy of it here in Lebanon is now reaching the end of it. If a war restarts here in Lebanon, who knows what's going to happen in Gaza? Who knows how the Yemenis and the Iranians will respond? And will some of that response of the Yemenis and the Iranians and or Lebanon's own response, would it affect the front in Gaza? I think it will. How and what's the outcome of this is all things, of course, that we can't calculate right now. But I think in a situation of return to full war in Lebanon, we may see the resistance in Gaza join, even if it's just as a sign of gratitude and payback of the support that the Lebanese people and the Lebanese resistance have given Gaza. So, this ceasefire is just temporary, and the war will continue.
Thank you so much, Laith. Great pleasure, as always, talking to you.
Thank you very much, Nima. See you next week.
See you next week. Bye-bye.